What's up, people? Ross Athiad here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. You guys, it's been freaking fantastic. Lots of really great conversations because everybody's very, very apprehensive about 2021. But it's funny the way that, all of their fears, their concerns, their complaints come out. And I bet you'll never guess what the number one complaint is. Yep, you guessed it. The number one complaint is, I want love. I want to be in love. I want to have the best relationship. I want to have, my soulmate, my twin flame. Oh my gosh, those keywords have been popping up a lot lately. Let's see. I want a husband. I want to get married. I want a wife. All of these things keep popping up, and I appreciate that to a degree because that means you are looking for love, but I don't know that you're looking for love in all the right places. I have so many Twitter-pated fans that are having a tough time finding love on Twitter, on dating apps. They don't want to put themselves out there. They're waiting for the other person to make the first move. They're convinced that if it isn't difficult, that it isn't love. They're convinced that if they don't yell at you, if they don't fight with you, if they don't tell you off, call you names, that it's not love. And I feel really badly for them because that means they're going to dismiss a lot of really great potential out there. Love is not meant to be hard. Love is not meant to be painful. Love is actually pretty damn simple if you're clear about what it is that you want. And I wish people would really understand that. So for me, I would love to have love, right? But for me, I also know that based on failed relationships, based on difficult conversations I've had with people in the past, I know what love looks like to me, specifically to me. This is the reason that I teach the 5 love languages. It's the reason that I teach the 6 human needs. It's the reason I teach the 4 types of communication. All of this stuff plays into how you find love and how you keep love. Finding love, yeah, we can find love pretty much everywhere in a moment, right? But if you're looking for long-term love, as in like not one person you call for a booty call or whatever, not one person you call because you're bored and have nothing else to do, you just want to hang out. I'm not talking about those fallback people. I'm talking about love. When it's ugly and when it's amazing, it's the same person still. You still want to go through life with that same person. It's your best friend. And I think it couldn't have been more summed up or better summed up than it was in I don't even remember. I think it was like episode 4 or 5 of Bridgerton yesterday. I was watching and they are begging the queen for permission to get married quickly. And he explained the fact that he had found love. And it wasn't love at first sight. It was more like, I found my best friend. We started off in a place where we don't like each other. I wasn't looking for love and she was not looking to be married off as a piece of property. And the way that he explained it was, he was a man of few words, and he had never actually enjoyed flirting or chatting or any kind of talking for that matter. And it just so happened that because they started in a position of not being attached to one another or looking for love at that moment, they were looking for a way to fool the rest of the township. They were looking for a way to spend time and not be harassed by people. So they chose each other's company as a means of escape, only to find that they really enjoyed each other's company. And it was in that manner of getting to know each other that they really put down all of their guards. They weren't trying to, do what they could to impress the other person, to keep the other person around. They were just themselves. And in that process, they were able to really fall for one another. They understood each other, they thought. And the queen, to that effect, was like, this is brilliant. I'm glad that you've figured out that friendship is the best possible place to start a marriage from, and so I will grant your special license. But she also made mention of the fact that it could crumble just as quickly as it had developed. And I think she was speaking from a position of her own experience, because there was a scene where she had just gotten into a fight with her own king, and it seemed that she was very, very, what is that word I want to use? Just disappointed and in despair because the relationship that you once enjoyed so much was no longer in a place of happy conversations, I guess I want to say. So she was speaking from a place of real experience when she said, it may crumble just as fast as it developed, but I'm glad this is where you're starting your marriage from. So later on, we discover that, there was indeed a miscommunication and something to stop the honeymoon altogether. And it reminded me of the fact that in my own relationships, I started from a place of friendship. I was not looking for love in either one of the relationships that I was in. And I was trying busily to mind my own business and make my own way in the world when I fell for the company of another. I found myself looking forward to seeing these people and looking forward to spending time with them. And as much as I was able to speak my mind in the beginning, I found myself slowly but surely not speaking my mind later on for fear that I would lose their company. Suddenly the idea that I might lose them overcame all of my need to be independent, my need to be my own person, and so my behavior changed. And in that moment, or in those decisions, is where I think I started failing in my relationship. So for those of you all, like, complaining about the fact that you don't have the love that you want, that you're not sure if you trust people, you don't want to get hurt again, I hear you. I really do. And I know how quickly it is possible for you to lose yourself in a relationship as well. I've heard from both males and females over the course of this year how they have longed for love, settled for something, found that it was just not enough for them, and then when they were tired of hanging on and settling for what they thought was good enough, because obviously you settle for the love you think you deserve, unfortunately. When they were tired of settling, they decided, nope, this is not good enough. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk out because I can't be in this relationship anymore. And it makes me sad because we could avoid a lot of heartache by talking in the beginning, by calling each other out on the fact that we are maybe changing our behaviors. There are so many times where I'd like to tell friends of mine that, I'm not comfortable with the way that they do things. I'm not comfortable being present in all of their functions all the time, because I really do enjoy my own company. I've learned to enjoy my own company because there was also a time where I felt like I couldn't live without people. And if I didn't have people around, then I was a failure. I wasn't good enough and I wasn't well loved or well liked. And those were all lessons that I had to learn on my own hero's journey. So for those of you out there that are struggling with love, that really want to find some way of sustained friendship with the idea of courtship along with it, I think there's a lot you need to learn about yourself first. The idea that you have to settle needs to be wiped out of your mind completely. You never need to settle if you feel like there's something that, doesn't suit your needs, does not fulfill your wants or desires. You have the right to speak up. Once you speak up, it's almost like the ball is in the other person's court. They have the opportunity then to hear you out and to make any adjustments that they can if they deem fit, right? If it's within reason, that they can change so that you can maybe get a compromise out of the relationship. Now, when I say compromise, I'm not saying one person kind of gives in completely, the other person gets what they want. I'm saying compromise. I'm saying discuss. Take the time to talk about what it is that you want. If it's something as big as, the kind of life you want after you guys get married, you're still, living in your parents' houses and you want this idea of life, you need to really consider what kinds of habits each person has. Now, in Singapore, a lot of people go from living in your parents' house to suddenly living with the person that they're married to. Not even living with the person they're dating, living with the person they're married to, which means you've never had the time to discuss how you treat the kitchen, how clean you keep the bathroom, what do you do with dirty clothes, whose responsibility is it to take the trash out, like all those little things you don't have a chance to discuss. Because let's face it, when you're courting, when you're dating each other, you leave the house with the express purpose to spend time with the other person, which means you've cleared a significant amount of time in your schedule to go be with that other person, right? When you're living with each other, you're going to need space to do your own thing because you're with the other person all the time. The time that y'all both go in different directions to go off to work is going to be important time for both of you. You can't be on top of each other all the time, right? So how do you manage space apart? How do you manage establishing your own space? How do you ask for time if, you're in the same house? Have you ever seen your parents do that? Do you have a clear idea of how to establish boundaries or to ask for help? All these things are not things we have to discuss when you're dating in Singapore, because you leave the house with the express purpose of a cleared schedule dedicated to being with the other person. When you're not at home, when you're not with the person, like, hanging out or whatever, when you're home and you're messaging each other, you understand that, 1 tick, 2 tick, blue tick, whatever, right? It means that they have or have not seen your messages, and then it depends on how long it takes for them to respond. And then it becomes, oh, Am I not a priority enough? Who else are you talking to? Why haven't you messaged me back? Why are you not, responding? I need immediate gratification, and that's not how it works in a house. There may be moods you need to contend with. There may be moments where the other person is dealing with something else on their mind, and so they're so preoccupied with work or a family matter that they can't attend to you the way they would have if there was nothing on their mind at all. Things change when you move in together. Things change when you go from living your separate lives to married. And there's a lot of things that aren't discussed enough. I went through that as well. And I didn't realize how important it was to discuss those things until after I got out of both relationships. And then I sat down and thought about, you know what? I thought I'd done everything I possibly could to keep the relationship alive. But I forgot that I could have asked for my own space. I forgot that I could have told him I wasn't okay with certain behaviors. And then, depending on how he reacts or how he responds, right? I have the opportunity to continue spending time with this man or starting to push myself into another corner, as in like starting to distance myself. There have been moments where I think back and I'm like, you know what? Every time you made me pick up my own, broken pieces of my heart because you hurt me was more time that I spent by myself learning that I didn't need you in the first place. Every time that I had to put myself back together without your help because you weren't concerned enough to worry about whether I was heartbroken or not was more time that I spent by myself not needing you, which means I learned to get over you before I left you. I learned to figure out how to do things on my own without your help, without your presence, without your input before I left you. And this, unfortunately, is how a lot of women feel. Men, on the other hand, will draw a line so hard in the sand and not compromise at all because they feel like this is their allotment in life. They're allowed to do this. And when they break up after that, they've chosen, the hard line and they've decided, nope, no more, I'm leaving. That's when they slowly have to put together the pieces of their life to get over the relationship that they had fought so hard to protect at one point. I wish it was as easy as, oh, I found love and now here I am, married and happy ever after. It's not that simple. And all of the fairy tales will have you thinking that, Prince Charming is coming and the minute they kiss you is all, you need to know about your life as a married woman. And all of these period films will have you thinking, it's okay because as long as the sex is good, I'll figure it out. I have space to move about my house. It's not like that. There's so many things that are involved, and I wish people would take dating a little bit more seriously. Not with the intention of dating, I get into a relationship and this is it. It's going to be long term and I'm going to marry this person. No, I'm talking about casual dating. I'm talking about having lots and lots of conversation with lots and lots of different people to find out what you like and what you don't like. I'm talking about almost a concept of speed dating, as in the same thing you would do with work, right? Which we still don't do that either. If you would take every summer of your high school life to take a different job, to try something different, because there is the expectation that it will end at a certain time. It's almost like contract work, right? You start at the beginning of the summer, by the end of the summer you have to go back to school, so you can't dedicate that time to working in that same job anymore, unless of course you really love that job. You really love the product that you're selling. You really love the service that you stand for. And so you continue with that job and you learn to get promoted throughout the years, right? But for those of us who don't know what we want to do, I would suggest that you go and try a different job in a different sector of industry as often as possible with the intention of learning new skills and finding out what it is that you really want to do with your life. Because it is through the variety of these experiences that you really realize what you need for you, what makes you excited, what makes you feel important and needed. And maybe it's certain aspects of a job and not necessarily the industry itself, but by testing variety, you learn what you need. You learn more about yourself. And it's the same with dating. I don't think we date enough as young people. Sure, in school you get attached with one person, but there is a sense of loyalty that you need to accomplish for some reason, right? You need to stay with this person as long as possible, and they will use the loyalty and the time you spent together collectively to prove that, no, we've spent all the time together. I'm not about to let you go. There is a sense of when you're with somebody that you shouldn't feel like you're property of theirs, that they own you, that they are jealous of any time you spend outside of their company. They want to know where you are, what you're doing all the time, but they're not able to offer the same of themselves. It should be even playing ground for whatever it is that you're trying to establish in a romantic relationship. And so if you're looking for love, these are things you should be prepared to state and explain, defend if you must, but ask for, because you are allowed to ask for them. Everybody is different. You may be attracted to somebody and you really, really wish and hope that they have all of the attributes that you would like in a husband one day. But attraction is not enough, because the minute you start hating them, they don't look so good to you. You hear what I'm saying? So while friendship is a wonderful place to start a relationship, yes, it could crumble just as quickly as it's built up. But that is where the best relationships are really tested. Time tells you who will last and who will not. Who's willing to fight for the relationship no matter how many arguments you have. Who is willing to put aside their differences and really change your behavior because you are important to them, and they're not willing to sacrifice you in the grand scheme of things. And that there are plenty of people that I've become attached to over the years, and plenty of people who have happily gone their own way, leaving me in the dust because they got what they wanted. They wanted convenience. They wanted someone to feel like they were important to them. They wanted someone to love them for a moment. And when they got what they truly wanted, which is maybe financial success, or they found somebody who looked better than I did, or, were able to offer them some kind of excitement at some point, they left, never looking back. And that was fine with me, because although my heart was broken, I realized that I was a means to an end. And for a while, I thought that that meant that I wasn't good enough for anybody, because if me in my present condition, divorced with a daughter, trying to build my own empire was not good enough for somebody, then maybe I wasn't good enough for anyone. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I wasn't accomplished enough. Maybe I didn't have enough money. And so that used to mess with my head a lot. And if it messes with my head, I know it messes with yours. So here I am asking you, how much do you love yourself, and how much do you know about yourself? What are things that you will not settle for? What are some things that you will not allow people to do to you because it's disrespectful? How will you confront a situation if you find yourself in front of a person who, for all intents and purposes, treats you like you are the beginning and the end all for them, but in public they pretend like you don't exist? They pretend like you are just their glorified secretary. How would you deal with a situation like that? How do you deal with disappointment? How do you deal with rejection? All those things you really need to sort out. How will you explain to yourself what happened? What is the story that you're telling yourself that, is the reason for why this person didn't work out? You have to be very, very honest with yourself, brutally honest. You have a hand in every situation that works or does not work, which means there are things that you could have done differently. There are things that you couldn't do any more of. But love, looking for love, the best chance you can offer yourself is to stay open to the idea and the possibility, and to know yourself so well that you're willing to filter people out to find the right person. Not everyone is meant to date you. Not everyone is meant to be with you. Not everyone will understand your energy or your concerns, your pains. Not everyone will appreciate the efforts that you take. So why not learn the filter process? Why not stay open to the idea of love, and when it shows up, appreciate the things that make you feel good and say something about the things that don't? It's not a skill that we're taught. It's not something we feel like we're allowed to do in most cases either, because people get offended. But I don't want you to live your life in fear of people being offended by you. I don't want you to live your life in fear of what if, they say something or they do something in retaliation because I decided this wasn't a good fit. Well, that really depends on how you communicate that as well. And that's another skill that isn't really taught very well. So bottom line, I know we're all looking for love. Bottom line, I know we all want the kind of relationship that will sweep us off our feet and have us feeling safe and warm all the rest of our days. But the reality is, they're human just like you. They have moods just like you. They have needs and wants and preferences just like you. And if you're willing to listen and learn from them, and willing to teach them about you, then at least you have a fighting chance to find the kind of love that you're looking for. But that means a lot of growth on your part and a lot of honesty on your part. And the more experience you have, the easier it becomes to tell what works and what doesn't work before it gets too complicated. I hope this helps you guys. It was a lot of information, a lot from friendship to preferences to being strong enough to say your piece. And I wasn't always that way. And I don't know if I will be. I won't know if I'm healed enough from the last 2 relationships until I'm in the next one. And I find myself in a familiar situation and I choose to handle it differently. It's an ongoing process. It's a lot to learn. But love is worth it. I don't want you to shut yourself away from love because there is pain possible. There's pain possible in every situation. But I do want you guys to find love. And I do want you to be bold and be brave enough to ask for what you want and tell people what you don't. Because it's worth it to find that real love the way you prefer it. I hope that makes sense. I'll catch you again soon. Bye.